Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we will be making potato dinner rolls, so let's get into it. Here I have all of my ingredients. I have 1/4 of a cup of whole milk, 1/3 of a cup of honey, 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter, 1/4 of a cup of potato water that we'll get after we boil our potato, 1 tablespoon plus 1/4 of a teaspoon of instant yeast, and that's 1 packet of yeast plus 1 teaspoon from another packet. We have 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 medium potato, 2 eggs at room temperature, 1 1/3 cup of AP flour, 1 1/3 cup of bread flour, and 2 tablespoons of instant milk. Here we have our potato that we have peeled, washed, and quartered. We will boil it until it's fork tender, probably about 15 minutes. We'll drain it and reserve 1/4 of a cup of that liquid to use later on. After we have drained our potato and reserved 1/4 of a cup of the liquid, we'll mash it as fine as you can. You don't want any large lumps in it, so do this the best you can to get out as many lumps as possible. Here we have our yeast that I'm going to add to my 1/4 of a cup of potato water that I let come down to about 105 degrees. And I also have my 1 teaspoon of sugar in this, and I'm going to mix this together. And we're going to let this sit for about 5 minutes until it starts to become foamy. I also have here my honey, my 1/4 of a cup of milk, my salt, and I've mixed those together and heated those up until they're about 105 degrees as well. You also want to make sure that your potato comes down to about 105 degrees as well. If any of these things are too hot, it will kill the yeast. Here, this is what our yeast looks like after about 5 minutes. It's gotten really nice and foamy, so it is ready to go. My honey and milk mixture has also come down to the temperature that I want, which is about 105 degrees. I've added my potato in my mixer with the paddle attachment, and I'm going to add the 2 beaten eggs. And for the potato, you want 1/2 a cup, and 1 medium potato should give you about 1/2 cup. We're just going to let this go for a couple of minutes until it works out some of those lumps and get it as smooth as possible, so our dough is not real lumpy. This is what our potato and egg mixture starts to look like after about 2 minutes. It's become a whole lot more smooth. There's still some small pieces in there. You can take a spatula and mash those against the bowl to smooth it out a little bit more. Now in the bowl, I've added my honey and milk mixture and my yeast and mixed that in. Now we're going to add the flour in and switch to our dough hook and start to knead the dough for a few minutes. We're going to knead this for a couple of minutes until the dough starts to come together and all the flour gets moist. And after that, we'll turn the speed up. As you can see here, the dough has started to come together. It's starting to pull the rest of the flour into the dough. And we'll just keep mixing that until it gets all of that flour incorporated. Here we're going to knead the dough for about 5 to 7 minutes to help it develop its gluten. And if it's too sticky at this point, you can add a tablespoon of flour, but no more. The dough should start to pull away from the bowl and form a nice smooth dough ball. After the dough is kneaded, I transferred it to a lightly oiled bowl. I also oiled the top lightly. Now we're going to cover this with some plastic wrap and let it rise for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. After the dough has doubled in volume, you want to punch it down to release the air. So I lightly oiled my hand so it wouldn't stick to the dough as I punch it down. And yes, I used my bare hands because it's in our house for our mouths, so it'll be okay. Here I weigh my dough balls out into about 2.26 ounces each. You don't have to do this step, you can eyeball it, just make sure they're even sizes. Now I'll take each of the dough balls and smooth them out and round them out on my silicone mat, and I'm going to place them into a buttered pan. Now we have all of our rolls in our buttered pan, and we're going to cover this with plastic wrap and let it do the second rise for about 45 minutes to an hour. After they have doubled in volume, we'll gently butter the tops and get them ready for the oven. Okay, they have just come out of the oven. We baked them for 18 minutes at 350 degrees, turning them halfway through. And now we will butter the tops with some more melted butter. You can also do some honey butter or a garlic and herb butter on top of these as well. Check out how soft and fluffy these rolls are. This will be perfect for your holiday dinner table. These are the finished rolls. This recipe makes 1 dozen rolls with just a small amount of dough left over. You could also make these rolls smaller by making them about 1 ounce each, because these rolls here are really big. So if you do that, you'll get about 26 rolls out of the batch. And I want to thank everyone for joining me and watching this video with me. Until next time, you guys take care, and I'll see you in the next video.